Today, we're going to be talking about profitability in your business and how to make sure that your business is profitable and that you're increasing profitability over time. Let's get into it. Today, I thought we would talk a little bit about profitability in your business. And the reason I thought we would talk about this is because I've seen this kind of come up a lot recently, and it definitely has come up over time, where people tend to project their results, right? Their sales numbers, how well they're doing, but they don't take into account, or at least when they share it publicly, how profitable that is. So a lot of people that you might see have a lot of success, they may have spent a lot of money in ads, or it may have cost them a lot to do fulfillment. We see this especially with people that promote Amazon FBA or Etsy or things like that. The profit margin on that can oftentimes be very small. It could also be large. Certainly there are cases where somebody might be selling a digital product on Etsy, and the profit margin there is probably going to be larger. And also, when people consider profit, they don't take into account the amount of time that they had to put into something. And so as we look at our businesses, I think it's really important to be honest and transparent with yourself about where your business is profitability wise, including what you, even if you don't pay yourself yet, what your time would be sold for and accounting for that. Because moving forward, the goal of your business obviously is to grow a profitable business, and you're going to want to be able to hire out certain areas of your business, things that maybe are not the best use of your time, so that your business can grow and continue to prosper. And in order to do that, you have to know, is there profitability here? Is there room to hire someone for this task at X amount of dollars? And so today I thought it would be really important to kind of break that down and to look at it. Now, there's all sorts of different ranges of profitability depending on the type of business you're in. But I also want you to understand, again, back to the time factor, that even someone selling a completely digital product or something like, a service-based, like coaching, something along those lines where there's not a physical product fulfillment, although obviously sometimes there are physical products associated with it, there's still a cost associated with your time, right? And again, if you're going to kind of scale that business, there's going to be a cost associated in the future with maybe hiring additional coaches to help you scale your business, hiring an administration person to be able to come in and help organize things, paying for, your funnel to get better, for your website to get better, paying for ads, paying for copy, right? Are you writing every single email yourself? Honestly, if you're scaling your business as a coach or anyone in the service-based industry, or even if you're selling physical products realistically, your time, you're not going to be able to spend your time fulfilling for your client needs and writing all your emails and doing all your copy and tweaking all your ads and making sure to post all the time. So there's all these different areas that eventually, even if you're a solopreneur and you're doing things all on your own right now to get started, which as you're getting started, of course, your time is going to be less valuable. You're going to need to spend your time if you don't have the capital, right? You have to pay for traffic in one way or another. So if you don't have the capital, the money to buy traffic, you're going to have to buy traffic with your time, with making posts, with creating content, all that kind of stuff. But you need to know what that would cost so that down the road, you can understand how much profit there is in your business to be able to hire those things out. So it's really important to break that down. I'll use an example from the business that my husband does. We do large scale technical production for live events. So all of the audio, video, lighting, things like that for large corporate events, we handle those technical pieces and he oversees them. So he's not physically running the lights or physically tuning in the sound or hitting play on the projectors or anything like that, but he is overseeing all the people that do that. Now, he spends a lot of his time in what's considered pre-production. So before, this is the same for all of us in any industry really, before we have a product ready to sell, before our funnel is ready to go and we start taking on coaching clients, we have pre-production, all the things we do before the initial thing happens. So in this case, it would be all the things that happen before they actually start loading in the equipment for the show. And a lot of that can take up a lot of time. He's having to go source equipment. This is the same thing for you. If you are in the physical space, you're having to go find the products that you're going to sell. How profitable is that product going to be? What's the margin on that product? How are you going to get it here? What's the shipping going to cost? What's the time going to cost, right? So all of that is happening in pre-production, and that takes up a lot of his time. But he is also a very heavily valued member of the company, and a lot of our clients want to have him work with them directly. They want him on site, physically present during the production, right? They want him there managing everything. So that would limit his ability to take on more productions if he's having to handle all of the pre-production himself and all of the on-site production himself. And of course, that's where it started, but now our business has grown. So we have other technical producers and other staff on our team, and we are looking at hiring an operations person, which I would say is the growth of any business, is to be able to hire someone that is kind of managing the operational things of your business, right? And so in order to figure out if you can hire an operations person or a copywriter or a funnel builder or a social media person or any of those pieces for your business, you have to figure out, is there enough profitability in my business to sustain paying for that person and to still have money in my business? Because what I see a lot of people do is they go, okay, I really need to grow. And they have some kind of goal. A lot of times, especially if you're in the Russell Brunson ClickFunnels space, there's a huge goal. Getting that 2 Comma Club award is really coveted. And it's awesome to hit that $1 million in business. But what you don't see is the downside of that, which is that a lot of the businesses that hit that are not very profitable. So especially in the e-com space, but even in the coaching space and things like that, to get to that $1 million in business, they may have spent $999,000. So how do we make sure that our business is profitable? How do we make it more profitable without, right? This is the key, without taking away from what our customers are getting. And there's some things that we can do to help with that. So automations in general can really help with a lot of the day-to-day tasks that might take a physical person the need to complete, right? Let's say it is once a week, you need to follow up with your clients, or maybe you have a course, but people aren't completing it. And on the back end of your course is where your high ticket thing is sold. It's really important people get through that course so that they can buy the next thing. You've got a really low completion rate. So you're having to email and reach out and text message and follow up with them to get them through it, right? If you're doing all of that manually, or you're hiring out someone to do those pieces, that's a huge expense in your business. Now, what could also be a big expense on the front end would be to hire someone to automate that system, to build it out, to create that system, automate it. But once you've done it, it's kind of a one and done solution. You may have to tweak it or update it from here to there, but for the most part, you expense that up front. You have that cost early on, which in a totally different video, we can talk about the tax deductions of that. But you have that expense early on, and then you're able to use that again and again and again. This is also true for courses in general. Almost anything, no matter what you're selling, whether it's a physical product or a service-based product, such as coaching or something along those lines, if you can add in a paid, meaning they purchase, course where they can learn some really good basics before any kind of one-on-one interaction with you, or in the flip side of like a physical product, if you can have a small course, even if it's free, that's included, that might eliminate a lot of your customer service problems, you can lower your cost of business while doing something that's automated. A course is filmed once, edited once, right? Maybe it's updated here and there, but for the most part, it's a one and done solution. And then you're able to put that out there. So again, back to physical products, let's say you notice that 50% of your customers don't properly understand how to use the product. They're not using it correctly. And because of that, they're complaining that your product doesn't work or isn't satisfactory, and they're wanting to do a return. Well, that's not great for business. But if you can include something free that very easily shows them how to use your product correctly to get the most out of that product, your return ratio will go down, your customer service complaints will go down, you might not need as many customer service staff members. And a lot of times you think, oh, well, I included instructions. A lot of people don't read instructions. They don't want to read instructions. Instructions are boring. They don't always make sense, right? You can include a quick little video tutorial in a fun way, especially that explains how to use a product and shows them how to do it properly, and kind of emphasize why it's important to follow that so they get the best results from the product that you're selling. then they're more likely to go through that. And again, you're more likely to have like fewer negative comments, negative, questions into support, people wanting to return the product. So that raises your profitability for something that was one and done. You had an expense to create it, to create that solution, but once created, now your profitability is able to go up, right? And then the whole point of one-to-one coaching or even one-to-many in a group setting is that those people get more individualized experience, more individualized coaching based on their specific needs. But again, there's always going to be some stuff that would be repetitive, that you would be teaching each person one-on-one over time. So as you grow as a coach, as you start to see some of those repetitive things within your business, then that's the time to record that into an intro course. And the great thing is you can oftentimes sell that for people that are maybe not ready or can't afford to work with you one-to-one. Everyone starts with that course. And even if people are going to start with you at the high ticket level and come in at the one-on-one, you're going to give them access to that as like a bonus or something and encourage them to go through it because it's going to save you and them a lot of time. Let's say you're selling 6 coaching calls. They get a package of 6 to over so many weeks to go from point A to point B, right? Because you should have a starting and an ending goal. So we're there. So you have 6. Well, it would be a waste of time for them to use one or more of those coaching sessions on something they could have learned that's super basic for everyone in a course. In which case you would say, hey, before you spend your time on these coaching calls with me, I want to highly encourage you to go through this. I've put it together. It's really concise and it's going to answer a lot of the questions that you're going to have before we start our calls together. Another example of this was in the financial business that we did. We built a course that really helped people kind of learn the basics of what they would need to have success with what we would teach them on the one-on-one. Our goal was to understand where they were at financially right now and get them to their financial goal as quickly as possible. But finance, there's so many different questions and things to understand on that path. And so if we can give them a course ahead of time that they understand before they get on that call, they only had 1 hour on a call with our team. Now they can get on and they're prepared. They're educated. They know the questions that they want to ask. Their questions are going to be more poignant. They're going to be more intelligent questions, and they're going to be more specific to their actual goals and needs versus blanket questions trying to understand pretty simple principles that we could teach in that course. And this worked incredibly well. The people that did the work, that went through that course, came to our calls prepared, ready to take the next steps. This worked well for them, and it worked well for our business because they came with knowledge and power and understanding that we didn't have to go over each time. So it saved them a lot of time on that call where they could use that call to get the most benefit for them, get their specific needs and questions answered that maybe just wouldn't fit for everyone in a blanket course. On the flip side, it worked really well for us as a business because it prepared them for the solution that we were going to present. So it doesn't mean that we always presented the same solution to everyone, but there were a few solutions that we typically presented if it was a good fit for that client. And for the most part, because they went through the course, they were prepared for that solution. So the sale of that solution was really easy. Comparatively to people that had never been through any of that, they'd have too many questions. It would be very hard to sell them the solution. So I want you to think about that when you go through your business and when you start to think about profitability, because that's where we started this whole conversation before I rambled on there for a little bit with examples. But I want you to think about what are the common things that every person you interact with is dealing with? And how can you maybe automate some of those things, either through a course, an email sequence, a text sequence, some way to reduce the amount of time that they're spending one-to-one with you or that you're having to invest individually to solve a lot of the problems that maybe everyone's going through, right? What can you automate in your business? Because that's going to improve your profitability. The other side of profitability is going to be being able to like remarket your material. So the more that you can take one thing, for example, this call, if I can take this call and I can break it up into little things and put them all over in different places, if I can automate that process in some way, all of those things, I'm reusing material, right? The more that you can do things like that, then that is able to increase my profitability. I'm not having to go re-record this material, which then would cost me time. I'm not having to pay a social media manager to come up with content that I've already technically created but didn't get used, right? So repurposing that content is definitely a way to increase profitability. And then again, being able to think kind of long-term. And I heard this about Elon Musk, and I'm going to screw up the analogy completely, but I heard this recently, that one of the reasons he's been so successful is that he really can kind of see the big picture. So if something, right, like can be solved, I think the example was like they needed some part for, I don't know, one of the spaceships, they needed a part for it or something, and it was going to take 10 days or something like that to get it on a train and get this part from where it was to where it needed to be or something along those lines. Instead, he said, we'll just take the jet, like put it on the jet, right, the private jet, and fly it. The cost to fly it on the private jet could be hundreds of thousands of dollars to go from point A to point B versus the slow boat way of just like transporting it on a train. But in the long term, getting that part installed and getting it working right away and not having all the people sitting around waiting for it actually was a lot less expensive in the long-term thinking. And so when we're in our business, sometimes it's really hard, especially when you're first starting out, to think about the long term. You're thinking, okay, well, I'm going to do everything myself. I'm going to type all my emails. I'm going to build my funnel. And I encourage you to do as much of it yourself that you can, because capital is probably limited when you're starting out. But also try to think of small things that might make a big impact later, maybe aren't that expensive. And it might feel hard to pull the trigger to hire someone to do your funnel copy, let's say. But if it's going to take you a really long time to try and write the copy and it's not going to be very good, spending maybe $1,000 to hire someone to do really good copy so that your funnel can start producing sales now versus waiting a couple of weeks for you to kind of test it and tweak it and get it all worked out. Profitability wise, it might make more sense for you to spend that money now so that you can start making sales sooner. So that's not always going to be true, but just to start to think about that in your business, it's like, what are the things that I can put in place, even if they do cost a little bit? What are those things and how's it going to impact my future business financially? And again, looking at the profitability, because the last thing I want for anyone here is to work your ass off, to go through all of this, and to be one of those people that walks that stage claiming your $1 million award, only to realize that you kind of spent $999,000 to get there. A, not very fun for you. It doesn't feel really good, I would imagine. I'm not that kind of person, but I would imagine realistically it probably doesn't feel very good to win an award for something that you know is not exactly truthful. But also, what's the sustainability of that, right? How long can someone sustain spending all of their capital to bring in very little bit? You can't pay yourself off that. You may not be able to pay your employees long-term. So it's really important for the sustainability of your business that you're consistently building in profitability and that you're looking at ways to increase that profitability, because the more you can increase it, the more you can then use that profit margin to hire more important things within your business. So again, if your business is currently taking up a lot of your time personally, but you could maybe spend some money to automate a lot of that stuff, that might be an expense now that would kind of reduce your profitability, but in the long run would give you back a lot of your time where you can then do more income producing activities, right? You're spending your time more wisely. And because you paid for it once and then it's kind of done, now you'll have time to recap that cost. As always, I want to remind you to subscribe to this channel, drop a like on this video, and comment below with any questions or concerns that you have. My goal with this channel is to make sure that you are growing a successful and profitable business and that you always have the solutions to all of those challenges that might arise.